everyone. My name is Ellen Solo. I am a member of the White Noise Collective. And I'm just going to do a couple of housekeeping announcements and then also say a couple of words. So first of all, I just want to thank everyone for showing up today. Obviously, the first step towards showing up for racial justice, ending racism and white supremacy, is to show up and to raise your voices. And we all have done this. Raise your hand if this was your first march ever. You can actually make a round of applause for these people. I think sometimes in our society there's a stigma around getting out in the street with a sign and saying what you believe. And so I really appreciate you all who came out for the first time today. Okay, a couple of things. So we are having a couple of movie showings. There's one in Providence and one in East Greenwich. The one in Providence is going to be on Thursday, October 8th at 7 p.m. at the Quaker Meeting House. And this is to show Anne Braden, Southern Patriot. There's also one here, probably more relevant to this community, is the movie American Denial. And that's going to be a film screening and discussion on September 27th. September 27th, mark your calendars, 6 p.m. here at the church. So please come and show out. Was that? Oh yes, if you sign, can someone hold up one of the sign-in forms? That's a sign-in form. If you want information about future events, either from the Westminster group or from the White Noise Collective, please make sure that you sign that form. Also, we have some buckets. Rachel, hold up the bucket. Over there we have we have a bucket in the back of Martha. So one of the principles of anti-racism that we work with in the White Noise Collective is that people of color are experts in their own lived experience. And therefore, they should be organizing and deciding what changes they want to make in the world that we live in. And we as white people should be supporting them. One way to support them is with our money. So just really specifically, one of the things locally that your money would be going to is there's an amazing man named Marco McWilliams who teaches college level classes in the community for free. He teaches them at DARE, and he is a brilliant human being who has done incredible work. He's having a class series for anyone who wants to come about Assata Shakur this fall. And this money would go directly to give stipends to participants. So he gets paid nothing for this. The money goes to give stipends to participants in the community who want to learn about racial justice and how they can organize. So if you could please open your pocketbook and hand some money to the folks with the buckets, that would be great. Also, any other announcements that I'm missing? Sign-ups, whatnot? Okay, awesome. So, I'm also going to just say a few words. I grew up in a town called Harvard, Massachusetts, which is not unsimilar to East Greenwich. It's a very white town, also an affluent town. Currently, just so you know, I show up for racial justice. I run a program for 5th and 6th graders where we bring kids together and facilitate conversations about race, racism, stereotypes, and discrimination. So that's kind of what I do in the world, amongst some other things. And I'm here today, first and foremost, because Black Lives Matter. I'm here today because it's past time, like Rachel said, for white people to stand behind and with people of color who are literally fighting for their lives. They're fighting to be able to have what has been denied to them through all the various forms of racism and manifestations of white supremacy in our society. I want to talk about white supremacy for a second, okay? Even people who have a racial justice lens, who are already thinking that Black Lives Matter, many of them are still scared by this word, white supremacy. These flyers in your community obviously were white supremacists on the far end of the spectrum of white supremacy. But what I want to talk about is that white supremacy is not just something owned by KKK members. It's not just about neo-Nazis. White supremacy is a belief, stay with me here, okay? It's a belief which is often unconscious or semi-conscious, that white people, white culture, and yes, white culture is a thing, white values, ways of being, living, reading, and organizing. It's the belief that white ways of being are better than the ways of being of people of color. White supremacy is literally everywhere in our society. And once you start to see it, you cannot stop stop seeing it. Marco actually always says, that the gentleman I was telling you about, he always says, it's like your third eye, once it's open, it can never be closed.
Amen.
So white supremacy is what teaches us that people of color are not as smart as white people, not as capable, not as deep or complicated, not as worthy of healthcare, of housing, of education, of positions of leadership. White supremacy is also what teaches us that people of color are to be feared and not trusted. And I know, coming from a community of all white people, growing up, there was so much fear about people of color, and that was all white supremacy at work, all of it. So using these ideas of white supremacy, and I'm going to say that word a whole bunch because I want us to get comfortable with it. White people in power have created systems, laws, policies, practices to keep white people receiving all the benefits our society has to offer, while making sure that people of color, number one, don't get those benefits, but also to make sure that they are systematically, physically, emotionally, and financially punished, and not free. So, for my fellow white folks, I believe that in order to be complicit with systems of white supremacy, that we are taught not to feel. We're taught to analyze, we're taught to tear down arguments that might challenge our beliefs, that might challenge this idea that we earned the power, money, education, healthcare, and housing and freedom that we have. A lot of those people who were refusing the flyers that we were trying to give them, they don't understand that this exact concept, right? That all of these things were not things that we earn, that this is all about white privilege. So we're taught not to see that these things are privileges that we have because of our whiteness. And we're taught that racism and white supremacy are something that people of color have to deal with, but not something that we all have the responsibility to fight. So we are here because we all know that we have the responsibility to fight. I'm here also because racism and white supremacy affects us all. Racism and white supremacy forced my Italian and Irish family to lose almost all of our cultural traditions, our languages, our celebrations, in order for us to become white. Just think about that for a second. Each one of us has our own culture that we had to give up in order to buy into this system that is exploiting and creating this insane amount of disparity in our world. Racism and white supremacy kept me, personally, from having meaningful, loving, inspiring relationships with people of color for most of my life. Racism and white supremacy have caused me and my community deep hopelessness because we're living in a country where the hypocrisy of what we say we stand for is so deeply disconnected from the reality. Raise your hand if you struggle with hopelessness. Think about that for a second. Most importantly, I am here because I want my black and brown loved ones and their families and community to live in a country where the idea of equity and equality is not a cruel joke, where everyone really has what they need to live and thrive, and no one is continually targeted by systems funded by the government that espouses to protect and serve its own people. So today, again, I thank you all for being here. And for all the white folks in the room, I'm asking, I'm pleading, I'm challenging you to feel, to really feel what's happening, to keep coming out to the streets, to keep raising your voice to say that Black Lives Matter. So there's some very concrete ways that you can get involved or deepen your involvement. This sheet that some of you may have gotten is great. It has awesome resources on the back. There's websites, get on the internet, there's books, there's incredible resources out there so that you can challenge yourself and challenge the ways that you're thinking and also help you talk with your family and friends and loved ones. Many of us from the White Noise Collective have lots of great resources. We're happy to direct you to any resources you're interested in. There's also lots of organizations doing trainings and workshops if that's sort of a better way for you to learn. Again, there are several local organizations led by people of color, organized by people of color that you can support financially. Again, just a plug for financial donations. Educate yourself, attend workshops, and please continue to talk to your white friends about racism and white supremacy. Be as honest, direct, challenging, and loving as you can be. We want to bring people along with us. You can start or continue to interrupt when you see people acting out their prejudice and stereotypes. Again, once that eye is open, you can't close it. You'll see this stuff every day if you're not already seeing it. Also, talk to your children openly and honestly about race, and not just interpersonal racism, where one person says something to another person that's racist, but talk to them about systemic racism. Because guess what? They already know what's happening. And if we don't talk to them about it and tell them why it's wrong, they just assume that we're complicit. They assume that we agree. Talking to children about racism doesn't make them racist. Okay? Talking to children about racism helps undo what they're already seeing in our society every day. So you can continue to show up in spaces like this, build community with people of all races fighting for racial justice, and of course, keep making noise. Thank you all for listening. So we also have these really awesome, are they screen printed? Yeah. I think they're screen printed. These beautiful screen printed signs, which people can put in their windows of their houses or somewhere else in your office, wherever you feel like you want to. So they're for sale over here. It's a suggested donation of $5 to $10. So we'd love to have these all, every single one of these go home today. So again, thank you very much.
Someone want to help me with this? No, I'm just kidding. So my name's Tim Rich. I am the priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church here in town. And I just want to say it has been a privilege to walk alongside of you today. I'm an East Greenwich resident as well. My neighborhood was papered with those flyers that you've already heard about. And this is just another example in my mind of when the forces of darkness go to work. Response of light and of grace can be stronger and can give us hope when we feel hopeless. So I'm so thankful to be a part of that response with you. I had a bunch of comments, but you know what? I am privileged to follow in the line of the articulate women who have spoken before me, and so I'm going to scrap those. We've been out in the sun a while, and I guess what I'd like to do to end, if I think I'm the last one, is that true? Is just invite us to a moment of reflection, of prayer. There is the name of God in this prayer, but if you are not of a theistic tradition, then just let these words speak to the best self that is in you and that is in all of us. And so with that, let us be still. O gracious God of many names, faces, and stories, we thank you for making one human family of all peoples of the earth, and for creating all the wonderful diversity of cultures. From the bondage of racism that denies the humanity of every human being, and the prejudices within us that deny the dignity of those who are oppressed, set us free. From racism that blinds oppressors to the destruction caused by the practice of racial injustice, set us free. From the racism that will not recognize the work of your spirit in other cultures, set us free. Forgive those of us who have been silent and apathetic in the face of racial intolerance and bigotry, both overt and subtle, public and private. Break down the walls that separate us. Empower us to speak boldly for justice and truth, and help us to deal with one another without hatred or bitterness, working together with mutual forbearance and respect. Enrich our lives by ever-widening circles of fellowship, and show us your presence in those who differ most from us. Work through our struggles and confusion to accomplish your purposes, and help us to find that unity that will enable us to become your beloved community. In the name of all that is good and holy, we pray. Amen.